Okay, so today we are doing a session on just back to basics, terminology and acronyms of risk management. And as I talk to clients quite a lot, I do know that a lot of you are quite new to your role. So we like to do these back to basics just to give you an idea of some of the things that you might not get a chance to sit and look at sometimes. So yes, so lots of different phrases and acronyms, words that sometimes get a bit of a blur. And I always think a risk management framework should maybe have a glossary at the end, maybe an appendix, because sometimes we do get carried away in jargon and not everyone in the organisation will understand it. So lots of words here in the bubble. So I'm going to go through some of these words and phrases with you today. So we're going to start with ORM and firm. So ORM, that's operational risk management. So this is the risk around delivering your services. So anything that relates to people, place, systems and external events or third parties. So any risk that impacts the key dependencies of the organisation. We've then got ERM, which a lot of you are probably familiar with. So this is the holistic approach to risk management, encompasses a whole organisation, so enterprise risk management. A coordinated approach, I suppose, to assessing and responding all the risks, but as well as identifying risk, it's also the practice to involve preparations for mitigating and dealing with those, and both active risks and anything emerging, so potential risks as well. That's all covered in ERM, enterprise risk management. And then we've got firm. So what's firm? So the firm scorecard is a classification system, and the acronym stands for financial, so better allocation of funds or monitoring expenditure, reduce fraud, etc. You've got infrastructure, which is maybe fewer failures of IT systems or reduced staff absence. The R is reputational, so maybe ethical sourcing or ethical policies. And then finally, the M for marketplace, which refers to a product or, in a lot of cases, services. That's your ORM, ERM, and FIRM. Risk classification. So there's lots of systems for classifying risks. In particular, we've got PESTLE. Many of you may already be using this. So you've got a risk classifications of political, economical, sociological, technological, legal and environmental. But many organisations have changed this slightly and they now go for personally. So they've included the reputational and they've included ethical. So sometimes we add ethical onto environmental on the original, but many organisations are now including it separately and including the reputational classification as well. So these will be very familiar, I think, to a lot of you, but there's a number of risk management options when responding to risk, and these are often referred to as the 4 T's. You've got treat a risk, tolerate or accept it, terminate it by stopping the activity that's causing the risk, or you can transfer it to a third party, such as a contractor or insurance company. The 4 E's on the right-hand side here are very similar, but these relate to opportunity management rather than risk management. And here you can exploit the opportunity, so it's equivalent to mitigating a risk. You can enhance the opportunity by increasing the likelihood or the impact. You can exit the opportunity, depending on your risk appetite, or you can exist with it or explore it for more entrepreneurial opportunities for the business. That's your 4 T's and 4 E's. We've also got 4 N's. So the 4 N's relate to risk maturity. So there are 4 levels of risk maturity, and you might know where you are within your organisation and where you sit as we go through these. So naive is level 1. So this is where organisations are unaware of risk management or the need for it. Very beginning of their journeys. Level 2 is novice. So these organisations are aware of the benefits of managing risks, but they don't yet have an effective process in place. And then we go on to level 3, normalised. And this is where management of risk has been built into routine business processes, but it's not quite implemented across the organisation. So there's not quite that consistency. And then 4 is natural. This is the organisations that are doing everything really well. They're very risk aware, have a great risk culture and very proactive to risk, but it's across the whole organisation. So from the top to the bottom of the hierarchical tree. And the natural is probably where everyone needs to aim for. So yeah, that's the top marks if you're a natural in your risk maturity. So risk assessment. So this slide is about terminology behind the ratings for risk, and I'm sure you're aware that there's many different ways of articulating these. And within JCAD, we tend to use uncontrolled, current and controlled, but you may well be using something different. So uncontrolled risk is the level of risk before any control activities are applied. It's also known as gross risk or absolute risk, inherent, some of you use initial risk. So all of those words relate to the same thing. Your current level of risk is what currently exists. So taking into account all the controls that are already in place. And that's also known as residual risk, net risk, managed risk, mitigated risk. So anything that's there with controls in place. And then finally, you've got your controlled risk. So this is maybe your future mitigations that are planned that haven't yet been completed. So sometimes this is called a target risk or a future risk rating, but it's where you're trying to get to. So these are basically where you've come from, where you are, and where you're getting to. Not all of you use all three, but all three are there available. So some of you may have seen this before. Sometimes it's referred to the 8 R's of risk management, but I've got the 7R example here. So as we know, risk management relates to activities aimed at reducing the effect of uncertainty on objectives, and it's around forecasting and evaluation of risk. So this is a basic explanation of your risk management processes, refers to the 7 R's. And those 7 R's are recognition, number 1. This is where you identify your risks and the circumstances that could make it materialise. Your rating and ranking. So this is the evaluation of the risks in terms of likelihood and impact. Your response to your risk. That's the 4 T's that we spoke about: treat, tolerate, terminate, transfer. Number 4, you've got resourcing your controls to ensure that adequate arrangements are made to introduce or sustain necessary control activities. You've then got number 5 is reaction. So reaction planning or event management. So that can include disaster recovery, business continuity. And then you've got your reporting and of course monitoring, but reporting on your risk performance and controls. And then finally, you've got review. So the review of the risk management system should be an ongoing, continual process. So going on from that, we've got PASTE. So PASTE relates to 5 key principles from ISO 31000 that define the features of a successful risk management framework. And these are summarised as P for proportionate. So your risk management activity should be proportionate to the level of risk faced by your organisation. They should be aligned with all your other business activities. D is comprehensive. So the risk management framework should be systemic and structural. It should be embedded alongside other business procedures and protocols. And D for dynamics. Your risk management framework should always be responsive to emerging and changing risks. So that's your PASTE. That's the 5 key principles of successful risk management frameworks. Okay. Now, also under ISO 31000 is PIML. Plan, implement, measure, and learn. So PIML guidelines are for streamlining risk management activities by breaking them down into manageable steps. These 4: plan, implement, measure, and learn, these 4 little steps here. So it offers several benefits to risk management because it's iterative cycles of planning and implementing. It allows the organisation to adapt quickly to changing circumstances and adjust any risk management strategies accordingly. So it allows for continuous improvement. It emphasises learning and measurement so that you can identify areas that need to be enhanced. And then you can refine your risk management process over time, that sort of continual review. So it's pretty much a plan, do, check, act approach that you might have heard of before. Then we have RASP activities. So this relates to a set of activities that support your risk management processes. So we have RA is the risk architecture. So this is the structure. So the terms of reference, roles and responsibilities, reporting and assurance arrangements, anything that focuses around who does what within your organisation. S is for strategy. This refers to the arrangements for embedding the risk management. So risk attitude, risk appetite, any specific risk policies you might have and techniques for assessing your risks. So basically all the agreed overriding purpose and aims of the risk management within your business. And the final part of RASP is P. So this refers to the protocols. So, for example, the tools and techniques for risk identification and classification, assessment procedures, and how you respond to incidents, so record keeping or audit procedures, that sort of thing. RASP. So here we have MADE, sometimes referred to as MADE 2. But this is these are the benefits of good risk management. So M is the mandatory, making sure all your mandatory obligations placed on the organisation are met. So any conformity with rules and regulations, legislation, etc. Your A is for the assurance, and that's for the assurance that significant risks are being managed. So your senior leadership teams and audit teams will require assurance that risk management internal control activities are complied with PACE that we had in the previous slide. D is for decisions, just ensuring that appropriate risk information is available to support your decision making amongst your leadership teams. And E is for effective and efficient core processes. That's where the MADE 2 comes in, is 2 E's at the end there. So sometimes it's MADE, sometimes you'll see it as MADE 2. But yeah, so that's all the benefits of good risk management. So I know not all of you use risk appetite at the moment, but I thought it's worth including this slide, go through the wording. So firstly, appetite. So this is the amount of risk that your organisation is willing to take or accept in pursuit of your objectives, your business objectives, strategic objectives, however you word it. Your tolerance level is the boundary of that risk taking, so the absolute limit of your risk appetite. And the threshold is the absolute limit beyond which you will not go. That's your full stop. You can't go beyond that. And to put that in context, there's a little example here. So, for example, a company wants to tender. It's happy to pay £1 million to get that tender. So that's their appetite. They've decided that to push it and to win it, they're happy to go for an extra 10%. So that's their tolerance. They're happy to go a little bit beyond their appetite to get what they want. However, the risk tender, they don't want to go beyond that. So they won't go beyond that 10%. So that's 1,100,000. That's their absolute limit. So that's the only place they'll get to. So that's their threshold. So if the tender goes beyond that, they're not interested anymore and they'll pull out. All right, so that's their threshold. So Lilac is all about risk culture. And risk culture is obviously about the values and attitudes present within your organisation that shape the management of risk throughout. So we have L for leadership, so strong leadership, and that's in relation to strategy, projects and operations, and it's the tone from the top, which you might have heard of before. So risk culture sort of comes from the top and works its way through the organisation right to the bottom of the hierarchical tree. So yeah, a really strong leadership is important to embed a really good risk culture among your organisation. To do that, you need to involve every stakeholder at all stages of the risk management process. That's absolutely everyone in the organisation. There should be an emphasis on training and learning in all risk management processes, again, throughout the organisation, involving everyone. A there is for accountability. So embedding an absence of automatic blame, making sure everyone is accountable for their actions. And finally, communication and openness on all risk management issues, again, throughout. Communication from the top as well, to complete that tone from the top. That's your light look. I'm going to just talk a little bit about controls. So we have 4 categories of controls, which is your PCDD. I've got the slide wrong there, if anyone noticed. So first we have preventative, for preventative controls. And these are obviously to prevent errors such as, an example would be segregation of duties or a third authorization on any transactions. You've got C there for corrective controls, and those controls are designed to correct any errors and ensure that errors aren't repeated. So training procedures, continual improvement processes. D for directive, and these could be policies throughout the organisation, standard operating procedures, guidelines of any kind. And then finally, the second D there is for detective controls, and they aim to detect errors after they've occurred. So an example of that would be your periodic auditing. Now, risk bow ties, these have come up quite recently. I think they're being used more and more throughout the organisations. And these provide a visual summary of all plausible risk scenarios. And it's a method that encourages a comprehensive analysis of a risk, identifies in all parts of the bow tie. So your event is the first bit in the middle. You have your causes on the left-hand side there of the tie. And then the impact of the incident over on the right-hand side. And this gives a holistic view. But within the bow tie, it can be used as an identification tool, reporting tool. So it also sets out the preventative action and the mitigating action. So you've got your event, your cause, preventative mitigations that will prevent that cause, and then you've got the impact and the mitigation actions to help with the impact after the event has happened. So JCAD itself can actually do a bow tie report. So if you're currently using the JCAD core system and you want some help with that, then let us know and we can have a look at that for you. And then finally, the Orange Book. And the Orange Book, some of you, I'm sure, have heard of, but the Orange Book is, it's an HM Treasury publication. It's very highly respected, and it contains a significant amount of useful information on risk management tools and techniques. And they've also produced a separate Orange Book around risk appetite. And these publications, if you haven't seen them, are well worth a look through, and you can download those from the government website. Final slide. Just wanted to say, any of you that aren't on the core system and you would like a demo, please let us know. Our contact details are on the next slide. Please let us know. We can do demos 30 to 40 minutes on JCAD Core. We can do them on Teams, or we can attend your offices if you prefer. And also we're offering a consultancy services now to help you reinvigorate your risk management processes, or should say, or help you get the very best out of your JCAD core system. So ensuring your framework sits within JCAD core correctly, that sort of thing. So we do offer those as well. And then finally, just thank you for attending. These are all our details. Please give us a call if you would like a demo or any further information at all.